Luvuyo gave his life to work beneath the ground. Years of hard work, sacrifice, all for a future he hoped would be easier. When the work was done, he went back home with only what he thought he had. But what he didn't know is that something was left behind, a benefit with his name on it. Until one day, a call came through. ICTS tracing services had found him and found what was his. Because what you're owed should never be forgotten. Now Luvuyo's dignity is restored. His story complete. ICTS tracing services, the benefit you never knew about.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to EBnet.Stream for today's episode of Exec Meet and Greet. I'm joined by John Kennedy, who is the head of wealth management at Citadel, for a conversation where I'm hoping to get to know him a little bit better. So welcome to EBnet.Stream, John.
That's so wonderful to be here. Thank you, Natalie.
You're welcome. I think let's start. I don't really know much about you, so I'll start with an easy question to get us going. How would you describe your career and what the kind of path you took to get to this point?
So I finished up with schooling and tertiary education in the mid-90s, and I fell into that camp of not quite knowing what it was that I was going to do. Like many people, I think, in South Africa, you might educate yourself, but never quite sure which route you're going to follow. I needed to find a job for financial reasons and sort of get on the track of life. And I managed to hire a car and get to Johannesburg and started out in financial services. When I finished, I studied at Stellenbosch. I finished with an honors in economics. Those that have studied that course will know that it doesn't necessarily tell you what your next step's going to be, but maybe financial services might be it. And I found myself in a stockbroking environment that sort of ultimately took me into the industry itself, way back around sort of the mid to latter part of the 90s. And that was where it started. And I think like most people in life, it's wonderful to join the dots when you look in the rearview mirror, but when you start out, you're never going to quite be sure where your career is going to
go. Interesting. You started in investment management and have kind of pivoted into wealth management, or kind of in my mind, that's a move from maths to more kind of people and warm fuzzy stuff. Would you kind of agree with that? And what draws you to that?
Yeah, I think it's, when you interview young people and you kind of reflect on your own journey, you always ask yourself the question, are you somebody that wants to sit behind the screen or actually sit with people themselves? And it's not as clear and as linear as that, I think we agree. But I definitely found myself more wanting to engage with people and be with people than, let's say, stare at screens. And you know what I mean by that. And it kind of drew me more and more into that side as things unfolded.
And as it was unfolding, did you have to learn different skills or kind of hone different skills about yourself?
Yeah, I think that's an evergreen for all of us. I don't think anybody's born with this natural trait of skills where, they can just leverage it off them for the rest of their lives. I think it's something that you become better at. I almost want to say it's a little bit like public speaking. I don't think anybody is just naturally gifted to stand up in front of people, but it's an art that you craft and hone and refine and become better. And I think the nature of doing what we do, you become better at it the more conversations that you have, the more difficult conversations that you have, the more different cycles that you go through, the better you become at it. And I suppose, and you'll probably ask follow-up questions, I think that the better you come in this space, the more you learn how to listen and less how to talk. And so, you look at the early part of your career, you're probably talking more, and the latter part of your career, you're probably listening a lot more.
Unless you're like me, where they actually pay you to talk.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then you found your vocation and your passion, so that's pretty cool.
Certainly my vocal cords. The one question that immediately comes to my mind when you talk about evolution and the way you've evolved is, and with your clients and with your journey, is this kind of, let's just call it a disruptor called AI. Now, as the head of a wealth management business who's now crafted this wonderful ability to be able to connect with people and build trust and all of that, here comes quite a big disruptor, where your expertise or your technical knowledge are perhaps no longer your currency. So do you find yourself as the head of a business like this having to evolve your leadership, the way we consult with clients, etc.?
The short answer is yes. Okay, but I suppose there's layers to this answer, and it depends what hat you're wearing at any given time, to what extent you're going to bring AI into it. It's the two letters that everybody's bringing up more and more, and rightly so. I think this is something that's not just a disruptive theme that's here today, gone tomorrow. I think it'll deeply embed itself into various aspects of business in financial services, whether that's at the product custody level, asset management level, or at the advice guidance level. I'm going to answer that by telling a story because it hit me between the eyeballs recently. It's a personal story. I have a daughter studying. She's about to become a doctor. She submitted a dissertation. In the dissertation, as they do, they fact check these, and they also want to see how much AI influences in it. And it came back and it said that there is just shy of 20% of AI influence in this. But with 10 out of 10, because everything was referenced correctly and it was all correctly, rational why it was there. And I use that as a broad basis that AI will come into our lives in an 80-20, 70-30, 60-40 manner, whatever it might be. But I think we're going to have to categorize what it's there for. In some cases, it might be to give structure. In other cases, it might be idea generation. In other cases, it might be a product expert. Whatever the case might be, but it's not the same answer. So if you're sitting in front of a client talking about something traumatic and you put on your AI mask, well, you're missing the point. If you are trying to be a product expert or trying to make, let's call it comparisons, whatever it might be, then it might come into play a bit more. But I think what we're all trying to figure out as human beings is what it means to be a human, and when is it needed, and when are you going to then fall back and rely on AI to make you better, more productive, more efficient, or more effective. So I think that's all of our journeys at the moment of trying to actually figure out this disruptive mechanism. As exciting as it is, it's going to make us feel vulnerable, and it's going to be a very, very exciting couple of years ahead.
So I've got a very similar story to yours with a different outcome around AI. My daughter's busy studying economics at Stellenbosch. Funny coincidence.
Yeah.
And her and a friend had to submit an assignment or an essay. My daughter wrote her essay from scratch, having studied, covered the material, wrote her essay, took her days and days and days. Her friend, on the other hand, just typed it into some AI engine, generated a standard response, then put it through I want to call it like a humanifier, so they can strip the AI out of it and get past the lecturers. And her friend got a higher mark than she did.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, what exactly are we trying to teach children in this new world? Because you're 100% right. In that scenario of being an expert or understanding trends and analyses, sure, AI is there to do it, and well done for using AI. But for somebody who's listening to this, who's busy studying or trying to come up with a career or just started in financial services, what would your advice to that person be?
I don't think the answers are an either or. I think, you use these tools to the best of your ability, not to be lazy, not give proper thought and all of that. And I don't know if this is specifically what your question is, but I think, it's a little bit like going to the library. You've had access to all of these books and past research, etc., over many, many years. AI is giving you the functionality to be able to do that. You still need to ask the right questions. You need to still have the eagle eye to spot where things could be wrong, and you need to actually put in your input. And if your input's 80% of it, fantastic. If your input's 100% because of the ideation and creation of something completely brand new. But I'd argue much of the progress of life is not about invention or necessarily reinvention. It's often about innovation and taking a slightly different nuance to something, or something that is, let me put it another way. How much of what we do day to day is absolutely brand new?
Not a lot.
Not a lot. I think a lot of what we do today is repetition and making better and subtle changes, etc. But it's not brand new.
Yeah.
And I don't expect, I have 3 children that are all finished with varsity or about to finish with university. And I don't expect it to be brand new, but I do expect it, figure it out a little bit better than what happened before you, and use all the tools that you can at your disposal to be able to find that little niche, make it slightly better, put your own style flavor on it. And if somebody says to you that this has got 40% AI in it, but you've referenced it correctly and you've explained why you've used it in that, then good for you.
Yeah.
EBnet is proud to bring you top quality content from experts across the financial services industry in South Africa and internationally for free. Your support helps us in doing this. All we ask is that you subscribe to our channel by clicking the subscribe button below, share this video with others you think will benefit from it, and give us a thumbs up if you are enjoying the content. That way you help us help you. Thank you from the team at EBnet. For more great content, please visit www.ebnet.co.za.
I want to pivot a little bit at this point in our conversation and link it back to an article that you wrote, and it was around this greed factor, and specifically in the context of the geopolitics at the moment, and sitting as the head of an advisory business, and the world is changing so fast. What are some of the stories that you're seeing clients come up with? How are you pivoting and changing your investment or your financial planning advice for those people? What would your advice be to the person listening to this who's kind of trying to just save?
Yeah, that in of itself is such a long, a detailed, nuanced question with a lot of, a number of angles to it, and I think it depends on the human being that one would be chatting to. But let me start out with this. I think that let's accept just broadly that whenever anybody talks about the present and the immediate future, nobody ever says it feels great and everything looks wonderful. Okay. We all are geniuses when the present becomes the past, because we can tell you what happened and how safe it was and how wonderful it was. But I've been in the industry for 30 years now, and I'm still to find a period where somebody says, oh, everything's fantastic. It's amazing. This all makes sense to me. This is how it's meant to be, etc. We need to accept that we'll always live in times where things are deeply unsettling, and that we are fed information in such a manner that will often confirm our beliefs, i.e. if I'm feeling unsettled, the information I get will make me feel more unsettled, etc. And then we're very good at projecting that out and saying this is how it'll always be. And at the moment, let's agree, it feels exceptionally unpredictable and uncertain. It feels like things don't necessarily entirely make sense, be it in South Africa or in any other part of the region of the world. Yet financial markets are telling us that things have been very good. The last year, financial markets are up very strongly. Everything looks green. The rand looks like South Africa is an incredibly stable place. The rand is 10% stronger roughly to today on a one-year view, etc. Things look good. And so my guidance to people is often in the moments of when they are feeling their most unsettled is to think very slowly and to just push the pause button, and not to make a dramatic long-term or a decision at the time that will have significant long-term implications without having given it considered thought, and if necessary to consult with somebody else for their input on it, because we all have blind spots. So we all have these moments where our short-term thinking has massive long-term implications, particularly in finance and making financial and investment decisions. And so for those people that have a solid recipe and they kind of understand in the manner in which they make decisions, they won't make gut feel decisions. They'll give considered thought to it and involve somebody else that'll guide them along the way.
Such great counsel, and be careful of the kind of psychological factors or blind spots even that you're not aware of when making your kind of investment decisions or any other type of insurance purchases or financial planning decisions. We talk about this thing called living by design.
Yeah.
And it links into a New Year's resolution, in fact, I had last year, which was telling myself to live deliberately, rather than let life kind of bumble you along. Can you share a story with us where you live this out in your world, where you live by design?
Yeah, and okay, so you didn't tell me you were going to ask me that question, so I'm going to be thinking on the fly a little bit here. But it's something that I've always said to myself, but I've said it to numerous audiences and people that I've spoken to over time, is that it's twofold, because I think live by design sounds quite trite, quite staged, quite, well, great guys. So I've always said, okay, you do choose to live by design, and I'll explain what I mean by that. And the second part is that you expect the unexpected. So even if you're living by design, life will happen, things will happen. 5 years, 6 years ago, we had probably one of the most disruptive, destructive events in history. the pandemic came along, and it doesn't matter how well you lived by design at the time. In many ways, people either via their wellness or well-being were deeply impacted by it. And nobody was talking about it in 2019. So things do happen from time to time that kind of, just knock you over. But for me, live by design means purposefully putting on a hat. And when you're making decisions, understanding the context of the hat that you're wearing at the time. So I've had a role change. I've been in the Citadel group for 25 years. I had a role change a couple of times, but this role change is into the head of wealth management. In the modern world, we make so many decisions, but we don't always put the context of that decision on. So are you making a decision, let's put it in the way we would say to a client, are you making a decision around your family? Are you making a decision around your lifestyle? Are you making a decision around your business? Are you making a decision around your investment portfolio? Having that context is ultimately feeds the right decision-making process. So my day-to-day can be making decisions around investments, governance, client-related, marketing-related, whatever it might be. And unless you put on the right hat, you might get the wrong answer to it, and that becomes incredibly difficult. So where we took that into the client base on a number of occasions is say design is right. How are you choosing to make your money? How are you choosing to monetize your life's work? How are you choosing to live your life? What kind of lifestyle you want to leave? Where your family? Where your dependents? Where your loved ones? How do you want to end? At the end of the day, we all end. Do you want to end well? Or do you want to end in a manner that's going to create a whole lot of problems for the next in line? That's the design mechanism. Last point, I think we all get life is so random and sporadic and changes rapidly that despite the best laid plans, it doesn't always work out. But that doesn't mean that you don't consciously live in the manner that you want to.
Here's a good question for someone who is the head of a wealth business. What is your definition of wealth? Your personal definition.
I think, it's okay. I think wealth is many things. It's not always just about money. Okay. I think wealth is contentment in some respects and being at peace. I think you could then argue that people are genuinely wealthy if they're contented at peace. But having a monetary, money has a value to it. Okay, it's got utility to it. I think people that are in a position to be able to say, I have enough, and enough being from a financial point of view, is where there's true wealth. And somebody that says, I have 2 million rand can say, I have enough. Somebody that says, I have 20 million rand can say, I don't have enough. Somebody that says, I got 200 million rand, I don't have enough, or I do. If you see what I'm saying, enough is relative to something. It's relative to the life you want to live, how you spend your money, and all of those good things. And it's not a thumbsuck. It's that somebody can do detailed calculations, number crunching, to be able to say, yes, you have enough. So true wealth should be at a point in time where 3 things I would say are in sync around how you live, your financials and your financial planning, that you have an investment portfolio that supports that financial planning and those financial needs, and that you've got a fiduciary, as we would call it, but let's call it broad-based will and estate planning that's in line, that says, should something happen to me, the next in line will be okay, will be easy for the next in line to deal with. Then I think you can have peace of mind and be content enough to know that you've ticked the boxes.
I guess so.
Yeah.
But as it was so interesting. I was interviewing another CEO the other day, and his view was, as you approach enough, it recedes. And so some people just never have this enough. And so I guess mathematically and kind of spiritually and kind of personally, it's all different things for different people.
But that's my point. So if I had to replay it back at you and to say, how much is enough? Your answer, if you don't have one, there is only one answer. It's more.
I'm not there yet. Yeah.
It'll always be more. Can never be enough. So it's something consciously that somebody needs to say it's enough. It's the same thing, although it's not. It's to say markets are incredibly volatile. What should I be doing? Well, if you haven't decided in advance of hitting the storm, then don't decide in the middle of a storm. When the plane is going through exceptional turbulence and you in that turbulent moment, there's very little that you should be doing outside of saying, stick to the course, because you decided in advance what your course was going to be. And so you make an irrational decision when you're feeling unsettled or there's something forced upon you, say, decide now, decide now. Those strategic long-term decisions should be made well in advance. If somebody can articulate how much is enough to them and they get there, then they're there. They may choose to carry on going. That's fine, but they're there. Otherwise, the answer is always just more, more, more. And I think that's where I suppose a lot of guidance and a lot of conversations do help with these things, because it starts to crystallize people's thinking, because there's not one answer. Nobody can stand in these great sort of sessions that you run and say, this is the answer. There's no one right answer. People are different.
And that's very much a sign and the kind of industry that you work in. Everybody's different. And so the sum that works for me won't work for you for whatever reason.
Correct.
And so financial planning isn't just about maths. Before I let you go, a personal question. What keeps you grounded? What could you share with us that the majority of people at Citadel wouldn't know about you in terms of how you spend your time, your personal time, kind of de-stressing or decompressing from the office?
I would, okay, wow, okay. What do I enjoy? I actually really enjoy the basic things in life. So I live quite close to a mountain, so I spend a lot of time sort of just in nature. We're an active family as well, so just generally speaking, active. There's always something on the go from a sports point of view. Enjoy trail running, things like that. Enjoy being on my bike and that. I think that, I think what you end up doing in any business, from my side, is that you deal with a lot of distractions, a lot of noise, a lot of people, and sometimes just stepping away and finding some stillness and quietness is a wonderful tonic or antidote. So that's normally the case. I love travel. I love seeing the world. The funny thing, Natalie, I was accused of being an optimist the other day. I thought, wow, what a wonderful accusation to be told that you are. But and it's often you find good moments on the mountain and walking dogs and just enjoying life like that. It's that simplicity that probably keeps me the most grounded.
Love it. Thank you, John. Thank you for spending time with us today. I really appreciate it, and keep well.
Thank you. You too. Appreciate it as well.
Luvuyo gave his life to work beneath the ground. Years of hard work, sacrifice, all for a future he hoped would be easier. When the work was done, he went back home with only what he thought he had. But what he didn't know is that something was left behind, a benefit with his name on it, until one day a call came through. ICTS Tracing Services had found him and found what was his. Because what you're owed should never be forgotten. Now Luvuyo's dignity is restored. His story complete. ICTS Tracing Services, the benefit you never knew about.